Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
You have got to get up pretty early to go do something. We are the Alternative Dig Talk. With our mobile studios, we are redefining TV presentation just as technology is setting the pace. We are blending our approach with fresh, perspectively designed breakfast show, The Mighty Drive, informative and entertainment show, exclusive and live interviews.
President Museveni wadde juzi namulaba apima akawunga kilo 2 tasobola kalya nini bwaba alya kilo 5 oyannema okuliisa eggwanga ne bwe limundekera.
Njagala kwebaza the Alternative Dig Talk etuwadde kano ka Mighty Drive era n'abatuwuliriza bonna abali ku mikutu njagala basaba mugendo mu maaso n'okuwuliriza.
All given to you just a click away on your phone, tablet, laptop and smart TVs as we are streaming live on our social media platforms, on the road and on the go. We are the Alternative Dig Talk.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Okay, good morning all. My name is Norman Tumuhimbise. On behalf of the Alternative Dig Talk, I am here to host retired Justice of Supreme Court, and that's none other than Professor George Wilson Kanyeihamba. We are in his home, and those of you who haven't been following the sequence of events, the gentleman, the land senior citizen, has made 82 years today. So here he is. But that aside, we shall come back in yet another episode of his 82nd birthday. But for now, allow me say hello once again, and whoever that is on, may you please share and invite the rest of your colleagues to come and watch this wonderful segment, if I may call it, where Professor Kanyeihamba is going to address the land question. Mark you, he has written over 4 books on land or about land. So we're with him. Justice Kanyeihamba, may you please say hello to our viewers of the Alternative Dig Talk, which streams live on our social media page, and that is the Alternative Uganda. And also minutes later on, after the show is done, it's always uploaded onto our YouTube channel, the Alternative Uganda as well. And then our Twitter handle is Alternative Yuga. Those of you that wish to participate in our conversation in the next hour, you'll be calling 0789 017 145. Justice Kanyeihamba, may you please say hello to our viewers?
Hello, viewers, and those of you who congratulated me for my birthday, thank you. And I am enjoying it, and I feel as young as I ever was. And at this age, my brain is still as young as it was when I was a youth, playing tennis and squash. And so you are as old as you feel, and I feel very young today. Thank you very much. Having said that, I think this is one of the very few times when I've had a discussion with a subject on which I am actually an expert. Most people in Uganda, and particularly those in the government, believe I am a constitutional lawyer.
Yes.
Most of my writings have been on constitutional law. Since the fall of Idi Amin, there has been no constitutional instrument in Uganda, including the documents that are brought in the UNLF, NRM, where I have not participated, either in the drafting of those documents or in giving advice on those opinions. And so even today, when you talk to most lawyers, they will tell you Kanyeihamba is a constitutional law expert. I have become an expert by practice, but really academically, intellectually, I was trained as a land developer and an expert in land law and development. To show you, it is very heavy.
Yeah.
No one will carry this.
Okay.
This is, I call the Bible. There are two copies.
This is the first one. It was authored in 19...
They are both.
Oh,
This
both
is one. This is my thesis. The whole of it.
PhD, okay.
It was in two parts.
1970.
So it is not two books.
Oh,
it is
it's
one.
one.
It is my thesis, part one, part
Yeah,
two.
and this is 1974 as we...
And
we
it was the first ever PhD thesis at Warwick University in law. There were others in science and so forth, but I was a guinea pig PhD student at Warwick. And as you know, as a result of following the implementation of this document and other writings, it is only Warwick which has ever awarded me Doctor of Laws honorary for contribution to the legal knowledge and the development of society. Having said that, these volumes are the one who brought me to CA. When we were campaigning to go to CA, I used to take these two volumes. Then I would tell the audience in Kabaka, I said, I am the one who wrote these books, and therefore I'm going to make you a constitution. And all my other candidates, they never looked in. They said, that is the man. So I was elected, although we were 6 candidates. So these volumes, you can see even Norman thought there are 2 books. They are not, it is one. This is my thesis. My supervisor at Warwick University was none other than Professor Patrick Makoslan, who was an international expert on land development and law. You may be interested to know that he's the one who wrote our legal regime, our Land Act.
Okay.
The Uganda government invited him from UK to come and write our legal land law. He also planned Dodoma, the capital of Tanzania. He had been a professor. He was British by birth, but he was also professor at Dar es Salaam. And while he was there, I don't know whether the word is in use, a word called Makoslan was invented by the students at Makoslan, at Dar es Salaam, and to make somebody who is a great scholar, who studies everything about the subject, knows everything there is to know about it, and has no time for anything else except reading, and consulting the library. So that is Makoslan. When he was here, I was then a member of the government. They didn't know, but we collaborated together in writing our Land Act. My government would not ask me to write it, because it's very difficult if you are a prophet to be recognized in your own country. But when I first came, the late said Rwanga.
Which year are we talking about, Prof?
Yeah, to do what?
Which year are we talking about when you say when you first came?
86.
Okay.
I'm talking when we came in with the movement.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's when, otherwise I was in exile. Okay. So when we came back in 86, but people like Sir Rwanga, the late Yoweri Kaguta Tibuhaburwa knew I was an expert on land and land development and acquisition. So they told President Museveni. President Museveni said, I would like to see his writings. So Sir Rwanga called me, and I took this thesis to Entebbe. And it was put on President Museveni's desk. He wanted to read it. In fact, I thought he might make me Minister of Lands and Development, Urban Development, and so forth. But as you know, eventually I was Minister of Commerce and then Minister of Justice Attorney General. But I don't know whether he ever read it. Eventually, after about 3 months, Sir Rwanga called me to go and collect my book. So I collected it. But when later, when I was minister and had become a judge, the new minister of lands, who was the previous one in the from Busoga?
From Busoga, it is Passis Namuganza.
No, that's not him. The one who was in government when he was Minister of Justice.
Are you talking of Daudi Mijereko?
Daudi Mijereko.
Daudi Mijereko.
They told him that Kanyeihamba is an expert on land. He called me that he wanted this thesis to photocopy it and keep it as a treasure in his Ministry of Lands. And so he had it photocopied, and those who are in the Ministry of Lands, I am sure will come across this document. Later, students who are doing planning law and urbanization vandalized, cannibalized the only copy at Makerere University. I will not tell you where it was found, thrown away. Then I only had one copy, and I advised the librarian to contact Warwick University, and they sent him, I think, 2 copies, which eventually they lock up in the Africana section of the library so that people don't vandalize it. So if you want to read it, you go there. So it is a classic. Then Oxford University wrote to me, because the people who examined me were very famous internationally. There was Alot, who was a great scholar on African custom, James Reed, who wrote a constitution on Uganda, Makosland, my supervisor, and they were also helped by Professor Guy, Yash Guy, a guy of Nairobi University. So when we finished this book, when they awarded me PhD, they said that this is a wonderful work in this subject. We would like you to submit to Oxford. So they published it as a book for the whole of East Africa and Africa. I submitted this whole thesis to Oxford University, and they have their letter. They wrote and they said, this is very interesting, but it's too big. We would like you to reduce it to a third of its size. Then I said, I'm not going to do another work. I had done a lot of work. I said, I'm not going to do other work. So they never published it.
Because
I am asking the Ugandan scholars, how outdated as it is, to help publish it, so that it is a reference book in all our universities, and particularly at Makerere.
okay.
So that is the fate of this book.
Okay, our viewers, we're still with Justice George Wilson Kanyeihamba. We want to take him straight to the tough questions that so many haven't answered or so many have avoided. Justice Kanyeihamba, what are those types of land that Uganda has in regards to what you made in the constitution when you were in CA?
When it came to making provisions for the land, then I really was there as an expert. Remember, I was the chairman of the legal drafting committee. I was obviously a delegate. But when it came to that, many of us, including our chairman, the late James Owakababuro, Mulenga, and Cecilia Guerra, Matembe, women rights, we were very, very, very keen on the land. And if I'm not mistaken, in the constitution it turned out to be article, is it 273? Yeah. You'll correct me. And we took a lot of debate. President Museveni, like today, was a bit unhappy with what we unanimously agreed to put in the constitution. First of all, we were unanimous that land shall belong to the people and not to the government. That is very, very fundamental. Land shall belong to the people. And each community, in the case of Uganda, the Buganda. In the case of Kigezi, if we deemed ourselves people of Kigezi, people of Mbarara, or districts, Bukedia, and others which are not deemed. And we said each community shall have a land board, not to be appointed by the government, but to be land board, a local land board. And the land shall vest in the land board, and they will manage that land on behalf of their people. Remember the first principle, the land belongs to the people, not to the government. That was a debate that we were unanimous eventually. Some of us who represented the movement, we were sympathetic to President Museveni. I was one of those who said we should preserve statutory leases and land owned by municipalities and local government. I was in a minority. The people on the other side, particularly led by Delegate Byanyima, Winnie Byanyima, wanted that government should have nothing to do with the ownership of land. But I had written an article, you find it at Makerere, published in Land Law book. There is a volume called Land Law. And Kanyehamba's article says, land banking. It's a very, very famous article. And I sent it to the government, to Museveni, to read. Under that proposal, government can acquire land slowly, provided get it legally,
Before we reach there, I wanted you to first answer
you pay compensation.
the land tenures that Uganda has, and then we shall reach.
But I am coming to that. I had your question. Let me go on my own speed, please. I used to be a teacher, and this is my area of specialization. So let me take it on my own speed, not you to prompt me. Thank you. Because I had your question. But this is how I am answering it. So in that booklet, which I sent a copy to President Museveni, I am talking about land banking. I'm not saying that the government should not have land, but it should be acquire it commercially from the people, because land belongs to the people, and then own that land in accordance with the regulations of the board in that area, but utilize it as the owner. So what Museveni is talking about should be covered by land banking. You acquire land commercially in accordance with the constitution and in accordance with the law, and you preserve it for development. We shall be coming to that. We established 4 kinds of systems. There are 2 basic systems. That is freehold and the many urban centers which have got statutory leases based on leasehold, and the other one, grand norm, is mile land. Those are 2 tenures: freehold, mile land, and then we have customary land law, say a system, and then leases. Leases is where you hold land given to you by a landlord, and you have it for a number of years, 6 years, 99 years, 49. 30 years, and so forth. So there are 4 types of land tenures: freehold, mile land, customary land, and leases. Foreigners in Uganda, those who are non-citizens, can only have leases for a term of years. They cannot own mile land. They cannot own freehold. Certainly not customary law. So the other 3 are reserved specially for Ugandans.
The freehold, the mile, and customary.
Customary law and leasehold. So having said that, what has happened to mile? Because I have seen that every big and the famous regime, whether it is a junta or not, meets its cross. The English call it, you have Waterloo. Museveni has made his Waterloo in the mile land, because he has totally confused it with other theories he learned, either in feudalism or in communism. What he proposing, that the land, the whole land in Uganda should belong to the state, is a communist philosophy. I am not surprised, because he studied communism. At one time he was branded as a communist. Our friends, when we were fighting against injustice and the bad government in this country, our best friends were communists: Cuba, North Korea, China. These were our friends. They are still our friends, by the way. I even went to both of them, to Cuba and to North Korea when I was Minister of Commerce. So what am I saying? It is really unbelievable that President Museveni should forget our history, our structure of government, and where we come from, and propose that the land should belong to the government. But we look at what here, who owns what? Let me disclose a personal interest. I am living here permanently. And when I say permanently, I mean it. I'll never go back to Kabale or to Kigezi, my place of origin. I have a book here. If you want, you can even show it on television, called The Land, the People, and the Culture of Kigezi. President Museveni and I are Banyakigezi. He's from Kigezi. He prides himself as a member of the Kigezi People Association. So is he now saying that the land of his ancestors should belong to the government? His family moved from Kabale. They went to Rukunjiri. He has got relatives there. They went to Ntungamo because they were cattle keepers. So they were following grass. One of his uncles left Ntungamo and went in exile in Tanzania for reasons I'm not going to explain. And for him, with the family of Kaguta, moved to Rwachitura. As I speak now, President Museveni, I'm told, owns a chunk of land in Buganda.
Kisozi ranch.
A ranch in Kisozi. Is he saying Kisozi should belong to the government? Is he saying that Rwachitura, where he has made a lot of development and talked to the people of that area how to use the land usefully, that land should belong to government? Here, I live here. This is my residence. I have a lease from the Kabaka of Buganda. This land does not belong to the people of Buganda. It belongs to the Kabaka in accordance with the 1900 agreement. And with the permission of His Majesty, they gave me this of 50 years, which is renewable. I pay what they call peppercorn rate here. But as far as my family are concerned, I don't pay busuru. Since Idi Amin changed the land and abolished what he thought he had abolished my land, nobody pays busuru. Busuru, first of all, is a peppercorn. Very little busuru and mvuju. When you grow potatoes, give me 3 sacks of potatoes and two bananas or whatever you are growing. That is ridiculous. It is obsolete. The modern generation doesn't know anything. I have never paid the busuru to the Kabaka here. But I pay very reasonable rate, which you pay to every landlord. My landlord here is Kabaka. And he has been a very good man. He has never come and checked me or said, pay this, or we give you notice. Most of the people who work in Buganda, including President Museveni, have a bit of my land. My neighbor here, Wabogo, next door, you can see it in the house here. He's sitting on my land of Kabaka. He's married to my pastor, the president's daughter. When you go up there, here, my next door, is Ujanga from West Nile. He used to be a minister, I don't know what he is now. He got a permanent house. My next door there is somebody from Toro who is an ambassador. He's got a permanent house here. When you go a bit up here, there is Mrs. Mugaju. The late Mugaju was a professor at Makerere. He died and left his wife and daughter, and here on my land here. If you go anywhere in Buganda, the majority who owns chunks of land are known Buganda, but they are not disturbed by the Buganda Land Board. Buganda is the most cosmopolitan region in the country. Those of you who know history, they were at one time in the Buganda Ruchiko, which is supposed to be tribal. One of their elected representatives was Ocheng, the late younger brother of Martin Alike, a close friend of the president. He was councillor. Here, I've been in retirement for some years now. I am consulted by my neighbors. One of my neighbors is a widow whose husband Wamala was a friend of mine. They don't look anywhere else. They don't regard me as a foreigner. But I have had to fight for her piece of land because some relative wanted to take it. But it's mine on Kabaka's land. As far as I know, another son-in-law of the president owes some property in Kampala, which is under the jurisdiction of Buganda and therefore subject to the agreement. Now, I saw the president trying to explain that the 1900 agreement was not part of the Baganda culture. And I agree with him. But was a suit part of the... He wants to claim that he's a Manyankole, and we shall accept them. Where was the Manyankole wearing suits? Did they have telephone numbers?
No.
The country evolves into modernity. So the question of Maryland is not what it originally was in the 1900 agreement. It is a different concept altogether, and the people in Buganda and elsewhere look at it very differently from what our president wants us to believe. So, in my latest publication, Presidential Election Petitions, I have advised the president that this should be his last term. He is not responding. I think he was sent a copy of the book, or he's aware of it. I'm not hiding it. And I wish somebody, especially people who speak for him, people like Ofono Pondo, I invited him to the launch of my book. They should answer that question. Because Some of his closest friends have mentioned him. Some of the people who support him, like General Eritumine, like journalist John Nagenda, they have said, you have served that enough. Leave now. Now, he has been refusing. But let me tell you, if he doesn't drop this challenge
Of land?
on land, and especially my land, that will be his Waterloo. Many big and famous politicians have made mistakes. First of all, Napoleon, the famous.
Bonaparte.
Yes, Bonaparte.
France.
He made a mistake by going to Waterloo. It overthrew him. The British lost their empire by challenging Gandhi of India and the Nkrumahs of this world. Hussein of Iraq made a terrible mistake by challenging the Americans. He went with it.
So do you think
Now,
Mr. Museveni challenged
no,
Uganda with land?
please let me finish my point, please. On this one, interrupt me as less as possible, because I was going to add. Amin fell because he attacked Kagera Silent in Tanzania.
He said,
If he hadn't, maybe he would still be here. So I am concluding that, Mr. President Museveni, you are my friend. Abandon this challenge against the Kabaka and against Milo land. Otherwise, although the electorate has kept you, although you have been very successful in electioneering, if you continue opposed to the mile, which has become a culture, not only of only Buganda, but of Uganda, it will make you fall from power, if nothing else. That's what I wanted to conclude on that.
okay, words of Justice George Wilson Kanyeihamba. I'll take you to the second question. What do you think is any hidden agenda with Mr. Museveni when it comes to his ideas?
What's his agenda?
Yeah, in your view, what do you think?
He has no agenda. President Museveni is totally exhausted in every way possible. So he has lost the political marble. I am very sad that those who are near him in the NRM don't see it. About 2 days ago, Colonel Chiza Besigye, a doctor, was asked whether his advice was intended for the government and for Museveni. And he laughed off the question. He said, Museveni can no longer be advised. If you give him the right advice, he gets angry. He has become, he thinks he is a colossal of all ideas in the world.
He's an
And anybody disagreeing with him, like I am disagreeing with him now, very totally 100% I disagree with him, you become his enemy. Ever since I stopped being minister, I've been trying my level best to see him as my friend. And we have a private chat. He has made it impossible for me to see him. He sends messages to me. He goes through ministers. But person to person, he has refused to see me. So what am I saying? What I am saying is that Maryland will be the catalyst, will be the political catalyst that will fail President Museveni if he doesn't heed what we are saying. We want him to retire peacefully. We want him to leave office, and we honor him. But if he continues to confront the Kabaka of Buganda on land, he's not fighting the Kabaka alone. He's fighting the Eritumines. Nagenda has got private land, rather Milo land. He's fighting the Kanyeihambas. Amanya Mshega one day took me into Uganda, and he had some cows there on Milo land. You are fighting the Amanya Mshega of this world. You are fighting the Ujanga, who is my neighbor here. There is a big businessman who has put up a house here, permanent house. I think he's from Ankole. You are fighting those. So I am afraid our president has been totally misguided. And my advice would be, please drop this campaign. Do you know people are beginning to even invent stories? Maybe you find out. I talked to one very famous Muganda who is a traditionalist. And they said there is a minister who has been appointed to champion the president's cause on Milo land. He said who? I think he's called Chichwanuka, from the Kampala Associates.
The Attorney General.
Yes. So he amazed me. He said that man is an emigre from Burundi. Then I remembered some of the names which are similar to ours, like Chigongo. Chigongo is our name. People like Champade is Chompeide. When they went to Uganda, they changed. So we are all together. So, Mr. President, I would appeal to him that it may be too late, but please drop this campaign against Maryland, because you are not only fighting the Kabaka of Uganda, you are not only fighting many Baganda, but you are fighting the likes of your relatives, the Abogos, the Kanyeihambas, the Karujiris, your own daughter, Patience, who enjoy tenure on Milo land, and they are happily living in Buganda. So with so many Baganda who are their friends and their associates. But more importantly, if you look at that constitution, it says Ugandans will have a right to live, work anywhere in any part of Uganda. I am following the constitution by being here in this house and regarding it as my own in Buganda. Honorable Ujanga, my neighbor, is the same. The Mafuta Mingi Munyankole, who is my neighbor, is happy under the constitution to live in Buganda on my land. Mr. and Mrs. Rwabogo, who are very closely related to President Museveni, I am sure are very happy as my neighbors. Occasionally I used to visit them. She had a church here on Buganda. I used to worship here. She's the only priest I used to love and hear her preach. She moved to this church somewhere in Bunga, on Maryland, I believe. So please, what is the problem with our president? Why are you fighting the obvious? I wanted to predict, haven't predicted before, that he has started this war. It's a very bad war for him. He will lose. I want to predict that if he continues this challenge against the Kabaka, who is loved by his people, and us who have adopted him as our landlord, we have no problem with him. Many Banyankole have no problem. As I told you, Buganda is the most cosmopolitan region in the country. Our LC chairman here, I don't like him myself. I don't like his message. He's a Muchiga. Fred Muchirahi has been elected and elected again. He's a Muchiga. His opponent was from West Nile. If you count how many people on Buziga Hill who are non-natives of Buganda, you will be so amazed. But they regard the Kabaka as their Kabaka. They respect him. When he visited this area, we all, even though I have a wheelchair, we want to go on the road and welcome him. When he comes here, there is a lot of jubilation and shouting. And the majority of those are not Baganda, my friend. So, what am I saying to conclude on this point? What is the president doing? He's lost his politics. Because in the general election, you know what happened. It's not that the Baganda wanted the opposition. And it is not the Baganda who only voted. In Buganda, we don't have the statistics, but I can tell you the non-Baganda who have business in Buganda, who have permanent residence in Buganda, who have got Maryland Biapas titles, are much more than the president is imagining. So it is not a fight started by the president against the Buganda people. It is a fight against the people of Uganda. And that fight is contrary to the constitution. It wants to violate the constitution, which says land belongs to the people. And I have explained carefully how that ownership is exercised. And it is by the land board, not by the government. But then let us conclude on one issue. What has he done with the land that he acquired on behalf of the public? What has been developed on a chunk of land that used to belong to the public and was land regarded as land of the police in Zambia? When you go there, there is a supermarket which has come up. It's called ShopRite. There is a huge hotel. The ordinary peasants of Uganda and the Uganda can't even visit there. They can't afford it. What has he done? We have this Munyonyo complex. Only foreigners and heads of state can go there. Even I cannot go there, although I'm not very poor. And what happened to the Shimoni public school?
Kingdom now.
It was taken over. I think they call it now Heaven something.
Kingdom.
It is owned by a private individual, not by the ordinary peasant. What happened to the Kampala, I think it was called primary school or something? It was given away to a private development, and anything you want to get there is very, very expensive. Is that President Museveni what he's proposing we do? No, no. We all say no to our land becoming government land. Never, never. This is on my birthday. Today is my birthday. Today I'm 81. And history should record me that on my birthday, George Wilson Kanyeihamba, formerly of Rubanda, in the district of Kabaka, Emunyakigezi, like Museveni, is Emunyakigezi. I said no.
Any land
to this proposal that the land should be owned by the people. We conceded that they should have the lakes, the swamp, the forest, but certainly not land. I say once again, no. To Museveni's proposal.
That's a big no from Justice Kanyeihamba, and we can't add even a second on his big no. By the way, it's a no in capital letters. So let's go for a short break for a few seconds and then come back and call. If you wish to contribute, call 0789017145. Don't go away. We're coming back shortly.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
People, you're welcome to the Snap Talk with your girl Teddy Tenjo every Saturday right from 6 to 7.
It is your responsibility omwana wo kubeera mu nyumba nga teyasuze bweru mbo bamubanja rent. Koyo kulaba abalenzi abasajja abakunga butuufu tebabuulirirwa nga babulamu.
Towerabira nti tuli wano ku the Alternative Dig Talk. Mukwano gwange gwali topic kiri wandiyagadde twogereko. Is it about family?
You can take your time, look for a job, stabilize, men will come, men will always be there, you will get the men. Bonna goyagala musajja yenna goyagala ojja mufuna.
Embaga ketuuke. Bino bitu byasenga na ojja bafuna.
Naye ng'oli asitudde ttu yakedde ku makyabbaga nti nsitudde ttu. Naye nga mubutuufu agambye nti akyali muto.
Is it outside family? Is it society? Oh, could it be relationships? Just be commenting a topic yona gyandiyagadde twogereko tujja kwa tujogera kwano ku the Alternative Dig Talk ku share enganzi the Snap Talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Dig Talk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Dig Talk. Dig Talk, the way to go.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Okay, as we went into a commercial break, Justice Kanyeihamba wanted to confirm to the public and the entire world that Mr. Museveni
He's a Munyachigezi.
Munyachigezi. He's lying that he's a Munyankole. He isn't, that he's a Munyachigezi. And Justice Kanyeihamba has this as...
That's one. I don't want to be the one to say it. This is but he's the one who gave this information to the publishers. And he's a Musita of Rukunjiri. And I want you to look at it. Because for me, our culture is Banyankole Bachiga. But always we Banyankole. We forget to say we Bachiga. Why? Is he ashamed of being called them Chiga? Let me show you. And you show it today.
Yes,
So you people, you don't shy away from calling a spade a spade. Ask people to buy this book. Here. That is...
Yes, camera person.
What does this say? You read what it says.
First of all, zoom, and then I read zoom what is here. Tracing the ancestral roots of Yoweri Kaguta Museveni as a prominent Munyachigezi. There's a lot. We are seeing Karisa, we are seeing Nyaburiza, the chief Kajina.
Kaibanda, his uncle.
Then
whom he calls his uncle.
Yes, that he calls Kaibanda his uncle. Mushwa, that's Mushwa Kahurubuka. Okay, it's a lot.
And then more importantly, because he could say the smuggle routine, but he provided that information, and he is also the one who introduced the book.
Yes, the very president who says his uncle, who Kaibanda and others, he's the one who introduced this book, and as you can see the forward, it's by him. So he's a Munyankore per se, in as far as this book is concerned, he's a Munyachigezi. That aside, Justice Kanyeihamba, let's go back to the land question.
Right.
Could you have made land laws as a draftsman that enables the president now play around, that perhaps the laws weren't strong enough, and that's why we have the land conflicts?
You know, it always reminds me, we made the best laws. This constitution, the words of President Museveni himself, who his people trust his judgment, said, it is the best constitution Uganda has ever made. It is the best constitution Ugandans have ever made. And I will go to the bush once more if anybody interferes with it, the constitution. So, did you know that he was the first one to interfere with it? Did you know that people who were going to defend it, people like Kategaya, Bidandi Sadi, Matembe, Amanya Mshega, they would be sacked from government if they followed his words and defended the constitution? They would be sacked. Why don't Ugandans call a spade a spade? Again and again, politicians have come forward and said, Museveni is not telling you the truth.
Does that mean he's a liar?
Yes. If you don't tell the truth, you don't have to say it. An intelligent man says, if you're not telling the truth, then you're a liar. Because let me tell you, I supported the President Museveni in the bush. I was among the first one to formulate the rules of the movement. If you ask Chagulanye, also not Chagulanye, Chaligonza, General Chaligonza, who was in the bush, When I used to write to Museveni, he would read my letter to the high command in the bush. He said, our professor has said this again and again. I have told you there is not a single instrument where I did not participate or I did not draft, including the Moshi Conference. The Moshi Conference would never have taken place. I have said so. If Kaira, Andrew Kaira, myself, and the people like Yash Tandon, Rugumayo, had not been present. But you keep quiet. I saw a statement by Museveni that he is the one who restored Mailoland. Where? Museveni was not part of our constituent assembly. He was prohibited from going there. It's true we consulted him. He was the leader of our government. But the thrust of the land was us alone. The people who were in the CA were people like Cecilia Ogwaro, Byanyima, Wine Byanyima, Ziwa, Margaret Ziwa, people like Kazibwe on the women's side. Then the Wakana Rugunda, the Amanya Mushega. We are the ones who made this constitution. Then he comes to last week and he said, I am the one who restored Maryland. What's the problem with him? He knows Kanyeihamba was there, but he was not there in the CA. He knows we consulted him as our president, but as a party. So how do you come and claim, I am the one who restored my land? But I have told you, his concept of land was different from ours. We had to debate again and again because I don't like him. So please, why do you hesitate, you as a reporter or reporter, not you, to say he's lying on this one? Let me ask you, because this is him. After he had been declared winner 2021, then he said publicly that Honorable Sentam Chagulanyi rigged that election massively. Is that true? Do I have to ask you that that was a lie? A man had been under harassment, he would be imprisoned, he would be arrested, occasionally he would stay in the vehicle. Is that the nature of a person who is rigging the election at the same time? Now, ever since 1982, Museveni has said, in every statement, in every program, he said, I am going to fight corruption. One of my areas for fighting is corruption. I sent him a copy of my report to the Chief Justice, naming judges and the magistrates who were corrupt. Museveni has never responded to me. But everyone I named was cleared by some official in the Judicial Service Commission that I was telling lies. Instead of hailing me as a commissioner, they said I was a complainant. So from big, I have the letters in my book inviting me to be a commissioner and investigate. But because they didn't like my report naming some of these people, I became a complainant. So many of those said he's a complainant. Some of those I named as terribly corrupt or incompetent were promoted. The Chief Justice, the former Chief Justice, Justice Bata Katuleve, named the judge publicly. Named the judge. And he said that the judge is corrupt, confirming me, confirming what I have said. So one of the findings I made was confirmed by the former Chief Justice Bata Trade as correct. And he made it public that judge should be investigated with a view to removing. Now I want to ask you, media, that judge is still there. One of the magistrates I named
It's promoted
as corrupt is now a judge. Museveni made him a judge.
Does that mean that the system rewards the corrupt instead?
Pardon?
Does that mean, in your opinion, that the system, Mr. Museveni's system, rewards the corrupt? Rewards
Corrupt. Yeah, well, absolutely. Many of those people I named, or the judiciary named as corrupt, have been rewarded by either promoted or being transferred into a better position or being given responsibility publicly. And the Museveni knows them. And I know them. One of the most characteristic, there is a gentleman, if you look at these placards, he sent him thanking me for the work I did for a certain institution. Then President Museveni named him as corrupt, as having corrupted ministers even. So you ask yourself, is that gentleman still an official in the government? I won a case against him. It's called Basaja Baraba Al-Haji. I was awarded 157 million shillings more than 10 years ago. Then the lawyers asked for costs. The total came to about 215 million shillings. He has never paid it. I have publicized everywhere. I have gone to all the lawyers. Then he asked somebody who is not a lawyer, who considered that he owes me that money. Now that is the money I wanted the public to help me, and you. It will be put in the foundation of Kanyeihamba for truth, justice, and transparency. We are going to make sure that Basaja Baraba pays that money into that account so that it runs the Kanyeihamba Foundation.
Okay, words of Justice Kanyeihamba. I want to take you back. Is there Milo land in other regions?
Yes.
Why is it so prominent here? Why is it that the Milo land is hard in Uganda than other regions?
In other regions, it was mainly in specified places. It is not as extensive in Ankole. It is in Ankole, Fort I think, and Bunyoro, but it was not very extensive. And therefore, the majority in those areas live on customary law or freehold, and therefore are not connected with landlord. That's why it is not publicized there, but it is elsewhere. And as I say, in those areas, it was mainly earmarked for chiefs and other dignitaries who are no longer there, or for churches and other institutions. And those, there has been no problem at all. And the President Museveni has no problem with them either. It is only in Buganda, which is where the central institutions of government are, and where the rich and the Maftaming are, who support the NRM and ask for land, that concern the president. The other areas are non-controversial.
Justice Kanyeihamba, is the land question as a result of a political and legal question, in your view?
No. The land, I have told you, the law about the land is okay, there is no problem. But it has been politicized. Those who are corrupt and are corrupting the system, they would like to have land and corruptly use it with the help of the government. These are the people who are putting pressure on the president that let land be owned by government so that you have a free hand in giving us whatever we want, corruptly or otherwise. So it is just pure politics, nothing to do with the law.
On behalf of our viewers, I cannot ascertain how many countries you have visited. Are there countries whose land is in the hands of government and they have developed, and perhaps they have not had any land conflicts there?
I have told you, and I have visited more lands, thanks to Museveni and the Kategaya, the late Kategaya, than have not visited. I have been to communist countries, feudal government. Those governments where the land is in the hands of government or centrally controlled are either communist countries, like in Cuba,
China,
North Korea, to some extent, which one?
North Korea.
North Korea, that's what I meant. Because the South is democratic. There, the land belongs to the government. Individuals, you don't own anything. In North Korea, I went there. You work everything for government, including your food. You don't have anything which you can call your own. The other countries where land belongs to the authority is the feudal kings. They are no longer in existence, but historically, feudal kings, land belongs to the kings. This notion is still in the UK, that all land belongs to the queen. But it is just notional. It means nothing in practice. Because I have a house owned with my daughter and wife in the UK. I have a house there. But the queen never bothers you. You pay rates to the local authority. It's controlled by the local authority on behalf of the people. So what I have said, our law was excellent. The constitutional provisions were wonderful. It is the politics which interfere with those beautiful provisions, and then we get mess, chaos, abuses, and everything else, and all the secrets of the Kabaka have to come out instead of getting the information from the kingdom and the Buganda. The president blasts out who is sick and who is not. By the way, that reminds me. It just reminded me now. You remember in one long election, the story was put out that Chiza Besigye was sick. We should not elect him because he will not even last. And he only wanted 1 or 2 terms.
Yeah.
He would have finished those terms and we elected him. And he would still be retired. He looks very healthy to me, very, very powerful. And when you hear him talking, you say, what a pity he was never elected.
Okay, our viewers, we are still with Justice Kanyeihamba is addressing the land question, and we want to encourage you to call our number 0789 017 145. Ask Justice Kanyeihamba any related questions on land, governance, democracy, human rights, to mention but a few, by calling 0789-017-145. We are streaming live on our social media page, that's the Alternative Uganda, and also minutes later alone we shall have our show on our YouTube channel, that's Alternative Uganda as well. Justice Kanyeihamba, you talked about, of course they left here, the colonialists left the Mvujo and
the Mvujo and Saju law.
It is Mvujo and Busuru.
Yes.
In your words, and what is practical, is that this is so little, it's more or less useless, for lack of another word, because it's so little. Don't you think that calls for reforms? Why would one?
But if something is little, does not affect anybody, why do you want to reform it?
And if the landlord is complaining that this is too little for someone to...
Oh, please, give me statistics or about Nibanja. They are still paying Busuru and Mvujo. What Mvujo are they paying? What Busuru? It's a historical thing. I have told you here, my rate, which is very small, is paid annually to the land board. And it is not economic. It is less than economic. It's just an acknowledgement that I live on Kabaka's land. That's all. Originally, the thieves who wanted to steal money from me were from the city council, KCC. They were challenging me that I owe billions. Until the mayor wrote and clarified that Kanyeihamba is on Kabaka's Buganda land. He doesn't pay rates because I don't have a sewage system. They don't collect my rubbish. I do them myself. And then why should I pay rates? They don't look after me. There is no police at the moment looking after me. I am protected initially by the people who guard the residence of Rwabogo and his wife, and by the police who guard the other residences around here, and they take advantage of that. So I get nothing from the city council. And so when the mayor, Elias Lukwago, advised that ignore them, these are thieves. Even this story was written about when I used to have a column in the Monitor. 2 articles appeared there, how they tried to cheat me. So what am I saying? What I am saying, the only defect that is in the system are the thieves who are using the corrupt methods now encouraged by the NRM. But the land system itself, the legal regime, and the philosophies behind it are excellent. And I agree with President Museveni that we made the best legal constitution about land law. He is right. But where our police fails in that, why don't you ask him? And I'm asking him now through you. Why did you say it was the best constitution in 1995, but now you are saying it is defective? What has happened? Because when the Kanyeihambas were making it, the Kategaya, they were your close associates and advisors, and they were always consulting you. And when we finished making the constitution, you stood up and told the whole world, this is the best constitution. And indeed, even today, if you hear the comments about our constitution, provisions about the presidency, the rule of law, and land, they still think it is one of the best in the world. So why do you always accept President Museveni and other critics that this is wrong? We need another law, and this is this. Why don't you first find out what is wrong with the present one? When Jesus, our Lord, I am a Christian, very committed Christian, he selected very carefully his disciples. And when Judas Iscariot betrayed him, he didn't make a new law.
Okay, Justice Kanyeihamba, let me ask you this as well.
Yes.
People out there confuse the land that belongs to Kabaka and also the land that belongs to Buganda. What's the difference between Kabaka's land and also Buganda land?
The difference is very clear. Under the 1900 agreement, the Kabaka was allocated chunks of land, identified in his personal capacity, that this land belongs to you as the king. It's your land and your family. Then some other land was given to chiefs, other chiefs and some. Say, this land belongs to you, chief of so and so, chief so and so. My land, which I own a chunk of land. When I first got the title, it was 47 hectares, but I added on more in Buganda. It used to belong to the former Cardinal Sunsubuga, who had inherited it from his chief relatives. And then he gave it or sold it to his son, rather brother-in-law, called Mpima, the late Mpima. And I bought it from him. So the 1900 agreement divided the Buganda land, some to the king, others to the princes, and other land to the chiefs. The rest, Buganda Land Board, to be given for causes like educational institutions, to the churches was given the land as well. And as I say, that is 1900. We are now in 2021. And the things have moved on. And the culture of what has happened to Buganda and the evolutionary nature of ownership and use of Maryland have changed drastically. They are now part and parcel not only of the Baganda who live in Buganda, but we, the Aru, the Acholis, the Bachiga, the Banyankole, who live here, we have totally adopted the same procedure, the same way that my ancestors used to wear skins, cow skins and goat skins. But if you ask me to wear them now, I even don't know how to put them on. And I would feel very embarrassed. So please, President Museveni, don't embarrass us by wanting us to go in the public naked without our titles or Maryland.
That's Justice Kanyeihamba. A quick one. Honorable Bernard Atiku wishes you a happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
I feel great at the age of 82.
Bernard Mona from Uganda, definitely.
By the way, I didn't tell you, when I went to Mwidi, see a very young teenager, I discovered that Wambuzi, Samuel Wambuzi, had been head of school. In other words, he had finished school in 1947. His name is there. He was one of the cleverest students in his group, so he headed his school then. And I went there in 1957, 58. But he's still, God, thank God, he's still alive. He's still very sharp. He still writes books. We are soon to launch his, I forget what book. He's in his 90s now. So age per se, if God is with you, means nothing really.
Honorable Atiku adds and says, You are a living dictionary. Yeah, Honorable Atiku, thanks for watching and following this discussion. He's saying you are a living and moving dictionary. So I think, yeah, he's right.
Thank you.
Like
By the way, remember, so that was my last book I wrote, challenging presidential election. But now I am almost finished another one, and this is memory lane, a traveling memory lane. And remember various things which I'm putting together as my last book, hopefully this time.
With that one, I doubt whether it is also your last. Because that one we know. Now,
Okay.
Justice Kanyeihamba, we want to ask you, okay, there are two questions, but let me begin with one. What would be the political and legal solutions to the land question in this country? Assuming you are in
For me, as far as I'm concerned, there are no legal or political questions except to leave it alone. Leave things as they are. There's nothing wrong with it. Currently, we are saying, and by the way, I better declare an interest. Only last year, I had some land owned jointly with the Venerable Reverend Kajumba, Dan Kajumba, who is the Prince of Buganda, but he had gone in exile. We founded the Uganda Group for Human Rights together. Then when we came, we jointly bought Maryland together. Then the government decided to take it over. They want to pass a road from there. So they have taken part of our land, and we negotiated, and they gave us very good money, and they are taking it. They are going to pass a road through there, and we are enjoying the money they gave us. And that is what we put in the Constitution, that the government is free to acquire any land.
So as long as it compensates.
So long as you compensate the owners. And that is it. And that is a perfectly good law. It applies everywhere in the world in democratic countries. So why do you say we need change? Change what? I don't want us to change anything.
Does that mean, in your opinion, that the land laws are sufficient, effective, and there is no any reforms?
Absolutely. We have a problem in Africa, and particularly in Uganda. When a law does not suit you, you change it. You campaign against that law. You say we need other laws. This is not adequate. Museveni has already said, although he said the constitution was the best, but since he became president and discovered he couldn't give his friends land whenever he wants, he couldn't expand the ranches wherever he wanted, he said the land is inadequate. But the land is not inadequate. But you, today, for example, we are crying out for the vaccine against corona. But we have money, or we could find it, but it's not available. So would you say that we need to change the way we get money because we don't have money, or we should encourage manufacturers to give us more vaccine? We are always asking the wrong question. I wrote an article in one of my books, and I said there is nothing wrong with Ugandan laws
at all.
But when we fail to implement it, then we say the law is wrong.
Let me read
because we're afraid to say Museveni broke the law. Let me ask you something. In our constitution, we said the powers and the privileges of the Kabaka and other traditional rulers should be governed by customary law. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what we said. It's in the constitution. Why did the NRM decide to take over those customary law powers and they say you are now going to be governed by statute and by Museveni? Why? what was wrong with the customary law? Nothing. But Museveni wanted more powers. He had been calling himself Sebagabo.
Sabarwanyi.
Yes, Sebarwani and all that. And he wanted that to be reflected in the constitution.
Okay, let's begin with a call, and then I'll read you Honorable Atiku's comment here. Okay. Good morning. My name is Norman, and we are with Justice Kanyeihamba. Questions beginning with your names, please.
Good morning. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning, madam.
Happy birthday to you, Professor.
Well, thank you very much, ma'am.
My name is and I would like to ask 2 questions specifically. I would like to start by agreeing with you that the land laws are there and they're sufficient and I think good enough.
Thank you.
The question is what needs to be done for the law to actually work. So the implementation of that. I also want to ask about the Administrator General's office in regards to deceased estates. I want to ask, does the Administrator General have a time limit within which they are supposed to work on any deceased estate to the beneficiaries? What are their limits? And if you can throw more light on that, on how the Administrator General's office handles deceased estates. I also want to ask about women's land rights in specific, talking about inheritance. Aware of the contradictions between rights and culture, how best can women and girls go about their land rights? I know that the law provides for that, but in your experience, I would like to hear you speak to that. Of course, given the differences and the contradictions between tradition and culture and human rights. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those very exciting and challenging questions. I'll try my best to answer them. I have argued all along, and I am not a bad citizen or a bad lawyer, that our law is adequate as it is. When we first came to government after Idi Amin, I was Attorney General and the Minister of Justice and the Rule, very briefly. And the task he gave me was to say, Kanyeihamba, review our laws, particularly those made by Idi Amin. And those which are not very good, let us delete. Those which need amendment were made, which I thought was a very good instruction. While I was doing it, that's when the military commission decided to remove it, and I was among those removed, or I was offered a ministry under the NISA. I refused because I thought it really had been illegally and unconstitutionally removed. But later on I came. Now, what am I saying? I mentioned this to Norman at the beginning. There is nothing wrong with our stars. The fault is usually with us. Many people have commented on the Uganda Constitution and our laws. Some of the draftsmen of our laws and our Constitution are world known. Our technical advisor, he passed away, was a Ghanaian. Margaret Sekaja was one of our draftsmen persons during the CA. We had some of the best draftsmen that you could have. I was one of the lawyers there who was trained draftsman. And most people have read my books. There are mistakes, but they are not very bad. So what am I saying? If you look at the team that evolved our constitution, including the likes of the late Elia Kategaya, Bidan Sadi, the recently demised people like the former Deputy Prime Minister, all those people were the best you could have. Some of the best draftsmen, people like Justice Mulenga, Chagulanyi, Mr. Batakatulebe is a very fine lawyer, draftsman. We were on that scheme and we consulted one another. Some of the best ladies, politically and otherwise, people like Winnie Byanyima, people like Matembe, people like Cecilia Ogwaro, who had been with the UPC for a long time. We are in CA, and they were helping us to formulate ideas.
To make good laws about land.
And the good laws.
How can these laws work?
So, how can these laws work? You see, we have certain fundamentals which our government and everybody has forgotten. Everybody, including President Museveni, are under the law and under the fundamental law of the land, the Constitution. So they should govern under the law. But all of them, most of them, govern by law. The law allows me to do this. The law gives me power to do this. Instead of the law prohibits me from doing this. The law does not allow me to torture people. There is somebody, I will not mention his name, I admire in the government. And we first met when there were those peace negotiations in Nairobi, and there was someone especially from UK to assist. If you read President Museveni's books, I don't appear there. And that is part of our problem. You don't want to mention others who may be praised a bit more than you. That is not African politics. Everything you must do yourself. Oh, I am the one who brought to this, you brought to this one. If Kanyeihamba brought it, you don't want people to know. And that is a failing of African politics. So what am I saying? Why do people moan that this law does not work? What are we calling the Milo land doesn't work. But I am telling you that the reason it is not working is because people are not implementing it. You are not implementing the law as it says. You are not obeying it. I have told you that Maryland, I have Maryland. I own a piece of land with Kajumba. And the road authority under Kajina wanted to take it, part of it, to pass a road there. We were happy for this development. We negotiated. They gave us a price we accepted, and they took the land. We took our money, and it worked. So why does anybody, President Museveni, say that doesn't work? It works. I can give you 1,000 examples where if you follow the law and act in accordance with the provisions and the procedures laid down and agreed to by everybody, everything will run smoothly. But when President Museveni wishes that Kabaka Mutebi should not go to Kayunga and consult with the people because he may influence them politically. Then Museveni says, we need a law to stop traditional rulers going up country. And then you say, yeah, I think Museveni is right. We need a law. But we don't.
The last two questions, which I will ask you to be brief about them, because we have...
No, I didn't finish the question.
Yeah.
Very briefly, if you didn't know, when I was Minister of Justice and Attorney General, the FIDA, the Women's Law Association, awarded me the honor of being an honorary woman. And they were happy of the role I played in advising on women's rights, children's rights, when I was Minister of Justice and Attorney General. So I am always proud to say, when I read the asked question, that I am one of you. Although physiologically I may be different. Now, having said that, at least one thing that I can say is that even today, the NRM party, but mostly its predecessor, the NRM movement, have done its level best to recognize and guarantee rights of all people. I remember formulating the equality provision in the Constitution that a man and his wife are equal under the law in, during, and after marriage. And that is a permanent feature of the philosophy of the government. I was rather relieved because the Right Honorable Kadaga, who has served this country very, very well, and I wish she had agreed to be vice president rather than a minister, had stayed in office a bit too long to implement the view of the Constituent Assembly, which was to spread liberalization and empowerment of women. If you elect, as we did the first time, a few women, the Syrio girls, the Ziwas, and the Miriam Matembe of this world, and then they stay in power for a long, long time, 5, 10, 15 years, you are not really liberalizing this right. So for me, I am happy that Kadaga now is a minister, and I wish she had accepted to be vice president, because maybe next time, when Museveni retires, which I hope he will soon, we shall have a woman president, and she would have been one of the candidates. I will tell you something which bothers me. When we were in cabinet, the first few weeks, people used to call Mrs. Museveni. She didn't have anything. The wife of the president, first lady. And I remember some people, including Museveni, being irritated. He said, why do you call my wife first lady? That's Americanism. Secondly, these are his words. Why do you call Janet first lady? Has she got things other women don't have? At that time, I was also shy, until I became Chancellor of Kampala International University on the recommendation of President Museveni. He recommended me to be appointed Chancellor to Basajabalama. We hosted a graduation ceremony, and Honorable Janet Museveni, I have always called her Honorable Janet Museveni, not First Lady. I will never call her First Lady, never, because she praised me. And if there is any question about it, I have a letter from her thanking me not for calling her First Lady. So after that ceremony, everybody saying, First Lady is our guest of honor, First Lady. So for me, I said, I will not call Honorable Janet Museveni First Lady, because she has achieved what she has achieved in her own right as Honorable of Parliament. She's now a minister in her own right as Jenny Kataha Museveni. She's not honorable or first simply because she shares a bed with the president. Because to say, First Lady, you are implying that the only thing she has ever done, the only thing she can do is because she's the wife of the president. She sleeps with the president, which is ridiculous. And so, Basajabalama, who is the chairman of the board of trustees of Kampala International University, stood up and he said, Kanyeihamba, you are very wise. You are absolutely right to refer to our visitor as Honorable Janet Museveni. He said, we have all been making mistakes, calling him First Lady. And that only implies she should only be recognized as a wife and not as a politician in her own right. Then Honorable Janet Museveni wrote me a note, which I have, saying, thank you very much, Professor, for recognizing me in my own right, and not simply as a First Lady. And ever since then, I've been very proud to quote President Museveni, and to say, First Lady is an American name. You are hating the Americans. They are the ones who call the wives of the president First Lady. Why should we call Janet Museveni, Honorable Janet Museveni, whom I respect, First Lady? What does it mean? Other than that you are going into the bedroom of the president and his wife and then addressing her. Ridiculous. Finally, on this point, the Chief Justice, before he became Chief Justice, he was nominated by the Judicial Service Commission. The Deputy Chief Justice, Richard Butera, used to be a good friend of mine. I hope when he listens to this, he will continue being. The evidence we have is that when the Chief Justice was appointed, without passing through the Judicial Service Commission, the President appointed Richard Butera Deputy Chief Justice. In other words, a step was omitted. Now the question is, why do all other judges and the lawyers keep silent on that matter? Because he was irregularly nominated Deputy Chief Justice by the President. But if they can bring me evidence that the President appointed him Deputy Chief Justice on the recommendation, as the Constitution says, of the Judicial Service Commission, I will be satisfied and I will apologize. But everybody has kept quiet. But more importantly, people, you remember, after I stopped being a judge, then Gerald Karuhanga, then Member of Parliament, and the Chiza empaneled me to challenge the appointment of the then retiring Chief Justice Odochi, Ben Odochi, so that he's not Chief Justice again after retirement. Because our constitution says when you clock 70 years, as I did, you retire. Now my question is, I'm not worried about Museveni. Museveni has got ways of doing things and ignoring the constitution. In many respects, he regards the provision of the constitution as his enemy. But having said that, why would, and he's retired, he's still alive, why would Justice Odochi, my friend Ben, why would the man we used to dine together when he was DPP and he was Minister of Justice, Richard Abutela, agree to hold those offices again, knowing the law did not allow it? These are people I respect. These are good lawyers. Justice Odochi chaired the Constitutional Commission that recommended many of the provisions of our Constitution. Why would he retire? Then Museveni calls him, I want you to remain Chief Justice for another term, and you agree. I wanted to say this is a commentary not on Museveni, but on Ugandans themselves. I want that lady who asked a question to get a copy of my book called Challenging Presidential Elections. The losing candidate, or the runners-up, Sentam Chagulanyi, we met, and he bought 100 copies of that little book, Challenging Presidential Election, in which I point out that paragraph A of subsection 6 of section 59 of the Presidential Election Act is not only unconstitutional, it is illegal and was brought in through bribery. That is stated clearly in that book. I sent a copy of the book to all the media. The first copy was received by Mayor Lukwago, and the one who turned out to be the lawyer of Chagulanyi, Segona. Then Chagulanyi took 100 copies and he said, I'm going to distribute it to all the members of my party in the parliament. That is the promise he made. But since then, nobody has said a thing.
Okay, we have 3 minutes to conclude.
So what I wanted to say, to remind the people, that part of the problem in Uganda is the so-called political parties. They are content to be where they are. I think if we told them tomorrow that Museveni has retired, please find one of you should be president, they would be shocked.
Okay. It's just a comment from Honorable Bernard Atiku. By the way, Honorable Atiku is an MP for Aivu County. He's here and he says, please, one last favor. I wish to deliver Justice a copy of Prevention and Prohibition of Human Sacrifice Act 2021 that I sponsored as a private member's bill in 2017. We could as well have discussion about it. I will reach out to him and see if he can meet you and discuss at length.
Tell him that I am happy that he raises that. I used to be a fanatical opposer of torture, and the late chairman of the Human Rights Commission knows that. But I want him also, because he's an MP, I don't know which party he belongs to, please read, I'll give him a copy I'll have it delivered at Parliament, of my book.
Challenging.
I want him either through this program or media to comment on that little book.
Okay.
Because I want to end with it. What's wrong with we Ugandans? I want her to remember the lady who asked the question. Is the law wrong? Article 104 is very clear. It says if there is a presidential petition, the judges of the Supreme Court shall inquire, not here, inquire into the petition and give their findings. Now, I have been asking this question, and you, Norman, and all the other journalists, you've been keeping quiet. Ask the Chief Justice and others. For him, he has not had a petition of this kind. Why do those words appear in the findings of all the judges? Why do they call inquiry hearing? Why do they call findings judgment? That's the question in that little book, but not everybody is keeping quiet about it. That is a part of the problem in this country. No, everybody is afraid. The other day, I told the senior, I end with this point.
Yes.
A senior police officer, whom the president said they are very corrupt. If you say the police are very corrupt, and you have had your minister, who is a relative of mine, by the way, called Sylvia Kahindo Tafide, do you make somebody like Kahindo Tafide the minister responsible for the police? Museveni, if he ever asks me, I'll tell him why. That shows he's not very serious about these matters.
Okay, we can't exceed we can't add any word onto Justice Kanyeihamba's words. All we can say is that have a blessed Wednesday, and you leave us to celebrate his 82nd birthday. May God bless one, bless all, for God and my country. Norman.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.